Philip, thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
You've been away for 2 years in London, for 2007 through 2009. Tell us a little bit about the experiences you had there.
I think that all kind of started when I received some funding from the Australia Council to go and do some professional development back in 2005, I think. And I made contact with Theatre.wmv Dance Company, which is essentially the equivalent of Restless, but in terms of its capacity to build audiences. They're probably the world-known contemporary dance company that works with disabled people in the UK. So I was there on a summer school. I made lots of contacts with a lot of disabled artists in the UK, and from there I took on an opportunity to work on the education program, and I guess that was pretty much the hub of my ability to source out information and experience and contacts with people in the UK. I was mentored by Adam Benjamin, who was the founding artistic director of Theatre.wmv Dance Company. So really he opened a lot of doors for me, which was great. It meant that when I went back in following that up, I was able to take on a job with another dance company called Stopgap Dance Company, and they're a smaller organisation. They work with both people with physical and sensory impairment and learning disability as well. And they're a smaller group of dancers. And I was the education and health artist there for a while. So through that opportunity, I was able to kind of expand my contacts in the UK and around Europe. I was able to travel throughout Europe with several companies. I've worked as a PA for some professional artists before. So I guess I think what's really different about my experience in Australia and the UK is that working in disability arts is considered more of a profession, and it's more valued, your experience. And here it might not have that same focus or that same quality. So I think what's great is now I'm bringing back a lot of my experience and a lot of my information and the tools that I've picked up along the way.
Come on.
So what inspired you to come back? Obviously, experience in London was pretty broad-ranging. We talk about opening up some different companies of your own and so forth. It must have been can't have been an easy decision to come back to little old Adelaide.
Well, I think it started to become quite competitive there after the global financial crisis, and my partner and I decided that we needed to make a change. And this job came up really. Ingrid Varenne, who was the last artistic director, decided to move on. And I'd spent already 7 years with the company working as a dancer and working on the education team before and assistant director. So it kind of felt like it was a natural progression for me. But what was exciting about this new opportunity was that I was bringing some international experience back to the company, which had never been done before really. I mean, Sally Chance had founded the company back in 1991, and she was originally based in London. But it's very new. It's the dance is always moving forward. It's always progressing, and I think that's what we're hoping to do with Restless now. And I think being back's really allowed me to open my eyes and see actually where we can push the direction for the company.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Scope of what the Restless Dance Theatre is on about, and because there's a number of things apart from just productions.
Sure, yeah, no, so Restless Dance Theatre is Australia's leading dance theatre company. We make dance theatre, usually one annual production a year, and then we run workshop programs. So predominantly we've been in two-part model before, for the last 20 years or 18 years. We're coming into our 20th year next year. So there's the education work, the community education workshop programs, and then the youth ensemble. But very newly, a new addition to the company is the touring company work. And the touring company makes smaller, large-scale works with smaller ensembles of people. So the youth ensemble has always been with people up to from 15 up to 27 years old, with a membership of about 20, and they're on a voluntary basis that they engage with us. But the touring company is a fully professional outfit, and that's like funded project by project. So we've recently had a lot of success with a dance on film project called Necessary Games, which has been fantastic. We've won some awards in New York. We've won an award, 4 awards at the South Australian Screen Awards, 2 in Melbourne at the International Film Festival and the Australian Teach the Media, and the list goes on really. So it's something that I haven't been involved in, but it's something that's been really great to open doors for the company since I've been around, which is great. And more recently we've been winning some awards for our youth ensemble work, which is great. And I think having something like the Ruby Award, which is our most recent award, it's very prestigious for the company. It kind of puts for me, it lets people know that we've arrived now, and we're starting to evolve, and I think that's really exciting for people to see where the company goes now. I guess I'm the first male artistic director from the company, so I'm taking a very not that the gender really matters at all, really, but that I'm taking my experience from working in the UK, my experience as a disabled artist, and also as a male, in a very, I'm using that to be able to shift the direction, and still really staying true to the core values of the company since back in 1991 when it was established. But it's exciting, and it's really lovely to know that people are excited and listening out and watching for where we're going, so it's great.
Now, in working with those with and not with disabilities, what at the end of the day becomes the hardest challenge?
I think the hardest challenge, I suppose, if I can remember back to when I was a dancer with the company, was trying to meet in the middle and trying to actually find ways to communicate your idea that didn't go over people's heads. And so I think that's why dance is really a fantastic mode of expression for people, because through movement you start at the same playing, on the same playing field at the same level. And I guess then in terms of presenting that idea to an audience, it needs to be really clear as well. There are some people in the company that are very aspirational, and there are some people who just find that Restless is a really great place to be. So I guess that's the challenge when I'm working with the dancers, is to how to push those people to challenge themselves more, and how to keep guiding that person who's really aspirational into a place that fits really well within their own ideas of where they want to go in their life. So they're the sorts of challenges that we kind of deal with all the time, really.
With the video work that's been so well received, I'm just wondering what are the extra challenges involved in producing something like that, in the sense of the choreography, relative to a stage production. Obviously you've got an audience that sits 10, 15 metres away. In one case, another one where it literally has the opportunity to view over a dancer's shoulder. What are the challenges there?
I think it's a really different way of making dance theatre, and I'm more used to having an audience in front of me, and I believe in this case Necessary Games was still really about the dancers having input into their work, exploring that theme, that human need to connect with each other. But in terms of making the film, I think that the space in which the camera could focus was such a small space, and I believe they had to rule that out to measure, where the dancers were meant to go and where they were meant to fall, and the timing was really, really critical. I think the dancers did a really fantastic job because, it looks very warm. Those films look very warm, and I know that the conditions weren't so great at all. So when you're having to take and retake and reshoot over and over again, that's very different than getting just one chance to either blow it or to do really well with an audience. Which meant for Restless and for Closer Productions, who we collaborated with, that we could really make that one of the strongest works that we've made, which I think is why it's done so well. I know the dancers when I've asked them, what's the difference, and I think some of their feedback is that, well, people recognise me now when I'm walking down the street, so they like that, they're kind of attached to that fame element. I think it's really interesting.
If we were all letting down to see it.
So it's perfectly neutral, back to the beginning.
Synchronise.
Back to like your own thing together. And then we should try to when we be like, hey, in a minute, try to make it really obvious. What one's my foot,
Now, the next production in a few weeks' time is Next of Kin, which involves multi-generations of some of the dancers and so on. Tell us a little about the evolution of this project.
Sure. What was important for me was to think about how we could portray on stage that idea of family. And when you're working with people from 15 to 27 who predominantly have a learning disability, I felt like there was some kind of restriction in presenting that family idea. So when I talked to the musician, we thought, wouldn't it be interesting to find out which people have a family member who play music? So we started to bring in siblings and parents who have a musical background. And Hilary Kleinig, who's the musical director, has been fabulous. And she's been able to write and direct some of the young people. So we've got people from 6 years old right up to 66 working on this, and we've some of those are grandparents, some of those are parents, and there's brothers, and there's cousins, and there's kind of, I guess we started looking at what's important about families, and that whole notion of inheriting things from our family, and those things that you don't know where they came from, but they're there, and you hear and say things that you're not sure the origin of that. So I've been investigating that really, and looking at those things that you leave behind, and families, kind of darker stuff too, but also it's really fascinating talking to people about their family and seeing what truths come out. So we've been looking at that, and I guess I'm kind of playing with a little bit of literal and a little bit of abstract in this work too. So it's a recognisable place. It's a family picnic, but there's things that happen within that family, and it's not your ordinary everyday family because there are people from different cultures, people who speak English as a second language, people who have a different experience and maybe not a background in the arts at all. So that's really interesting for me to kind of find ways where placing 24 people on stage for 50 minutes is completely captivating to the audience at all times, which is really my challenge,
Well, I trust it goes well, and Philip, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks very much, Peter, that's great.